Hello, I hope that you are well. At least if not in your body, if not in your mind, if not in whatever place, at least if you're well in your spirit. Um, that's absolutely great. And what am I doing? I am reading from The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wohlleben. We have about what's it roughly 60 to 70 pages until the book is finito, and I'm sort of looking forward to that so that I can move on. Yeah, anyway, so we're at chapter 31, and the title is Turbulent Times, which is just those two words on their own are pretty much relevant in so many different ways and in so many levels. So I'm sure there's something in this for everyone. If not, then oh well. Okay, so let's go. In the forest, things don't always work out according to plan. Even though this ecosystem is immensely stable, often humming along for many centuries with no drastic changes, a natural catastrophe could still throw everything into turmoil. I've already written about winter storms. If a hurricane flattens whole forests, it usually affects the commercial spruce or pine plantations. They are often growing on land damaged by machines and so compacted that the roots can't grow down into it to provide good support for the trees. Moreover, in Central Europe, these trees grow much taller than they do in their original home farther north, and they hold onto their needles even in winter. This means there is a large surface area to catch the wind and a long trunk to intensify the pressure. So the fact that the weak roots don't hold is not so much a catastrophe event as simply a logical one. But there are storm events in which even natural forests sustain at least localized damage. There are tornadoes whose swirling winds change direction in seconds and overwhelm the trees. These turbulent winds often happen in a combination with thunderstorms which, in Central Europe, occur almost only in summer. So yet another factor comes into play. At that time of year, deciduous trees have leaves on their branches. In the normal storm months from October to March, beech and co are naked right down to their branches and therefore offer little wind resistance. In June or July, however, trees are not expecting these kinds of problems. If a tornado sweeps through a forest, it slams into the crowns and twists them right off with its raw power. The splintered trunks are left standing as a monument to this atmospheric assault and a lasting testament to the forces of nature. Tornadoes are rare events, and therefore, in evolutionary terms, it clearly doesn't make sense to develop a defensive strategy just for them. However, there is another type of damage that happens much more often in connection with the thunderstorms, that the complete collapse of crowns of deciduous trees because of heavy rain. When enormous amounts of water land on the leaves in just a few minutes, the trees have to handle loads that weigh many tons. Typically, extra weight from above comes in the form of winter snow, and this falls right through the trees because the leaves are already on the ground by then. In summer, snow is not an issue, and beeches and oaks in full leaf have no problem bearing up under typical rainfall. Even a downpour is usually fine if a tree has grown normally. Things do, however, get a little dicey for trees if if they ignored the etiquette manual while they were growing up and now have structural issues with their trunk or branches. A typical issue that can lead to branch failure is the so-called hazard beam. The name says it all. A normal branch curves like a bow. It comes out from the trunk, grows upward for a while, and then grows horizontally before gently curving down. This gentle curve does a good job of cushioning the impact of weight from above without breaking. That is extremely important because the branches of older trees can be more than 30 feet long. This long lever exerts enormous pressure at the point where the branch meets the trunk. Despite the dangers, some trees clearly don't want to follow tried and true branch patterns. In these trees, the branches start by pointing away from the trunk, only to then bend and grow upward and continue to hold this course. If a branch that grows in this J shape is bent down toward the ground, the force of heavy rain is not absorbed and the branch breaks because downward pressure compresses the fibers on the underside. That would be the fibers on the outside of the J curve, and overextends those on the inside. Sometimes it is the trunk itself that is malformed in this way, and these trees break apart in the torrential rains that often accompany thunderstorms. It's just another tough selection process that eliminates unfit trees from the race. Other times, the breakdown has nothing to do with structural problems in the tree. The pressure from above is simply too great. Such breakdowns mostly happen in the months of March and April when snow is transformed from feather-light fluff to dead weight. You can estimate the point at which the snow becomes dangerous by looking at the clusters of flakes as they fall. When the clusters are about the same diameter as a €2 coin, that would be a quarter of those of you in the United States or Canada, an Australian dollar or a British 10 pence piece. Thanks for not including South Africa. For South Africa, it's about the size of a 50 cents coin. If those are still around, those are just getting more and more rare. Anyway, so if it's that size, the situation is getting critical. What you have at this stage is wet snow, which holds a lot of water and is very sticky. Instead of falling through tree branches, wet snow adheres to them, accumulating in thick, heavy layers. Wet snow falling on a tall, sturdy tree can break a lot of limbs. It is even worse for adolescent trees. They are standing there with their lanky trunks and small crowns, waiting for it to be their turn to grow. They are either broken by snow loads or bent down so far that they can't right themselves again. Very small trees, however, are not in danger because their little trunks are simply too short. Pay attention on your next walk out into the forest. Right there, among the middle-aged trees, you will find several that have been bent beyond hope of recovery in such a weather event. Sure. Hoarfrost is Hoar. Hoarfrost is similar to snow, but it's more romantic. At least we think so, because the plants and trees look as though they've been sprinkled with sugar. When below freezing temperatures and foggy conditions occur together, fine drops of moisture immediately freeze wherever they touch a branch or a needle. After a few hours, the whole forest looks white, even though not a flake of snow has fallen. If the weather condition persists for days, hundreds of pounds of frosty ice crystals can accumulate on the treetops. When the sun finally breaks through a hole in the fog, all the trees sparkle as though they were in a fairy tale. But unfortunately for them, they are in the real world, and they are groaning under the weight of the ice and beginning to bend dangerously. Woe to the tree that has a weak spot on its wood. The dry track echoes through the forest like a gunshot, and the whole crown comes tumbling down. That makes me have like semi goosebumps. It's kind of like if you just I'll just read that again. It just woof. Then a dry crack echoes through the forest, through the whole forest, like a gunshot, and the whole crown comes tumbling down. That's such a striking set of words that actually they go deep and they go wide. Okay, I'll just carry on reading. The less integrated the tree is in a community of its own species, the greater the danger. That's true. Loners standing unprotected, out in the cold fog, succumb markedly more often than well-connected individuals in a dense forest who can lean on their neighbors for support. Yet again, this is being repeated, and that is so important. This has been repeated so many times in this book already, it's definitely got to be some form of takeaway. I don't know yet. We'll get to the end of the book and see what sort of emerges out of that. But he's repeating this again. It's just, I suppose maybe just for me, it's something that stands out. But it's not just for me. Sometimes I think of myself and then I immediately think of like a huge bunch of other people that I can almost name that. Anyway, sorry. Oh no, I lost my spot. Okay. I'll read that again. Loners standing unprotected out in the cold fog succumb markedly more often than well-connected individuals in a dense forest who can lean on their neighbors for support. Moreover, this wind tends to blow over dense forest canopies, so mostly it is just the high branch tips that get heavily blanketed in ice crystals. But the weather still... But the weather has still more tricks up its sleeve. There is lightning, for example. An old German saying, oh great, I'm going to have to read German again. An old German saying about storms in the forest. Buchen sollst du suchen. That's terrible, I know, it's so terrible. The embarrassment factor in this right now is... Oh gosh, okay. Moving on. And luckily there's a translation of whatever I just completely bodged up. I apologize to Germans anyway, or anyone who speaks German correctly. That's terrible. I really, This is another reminder that I should go get that German English dictionary. Anyway, okay. The saying, the translation of that, is avoid oaks, seek beeches. That makes me even more attracted to what the German phrase says, because that just sounds like it has more impact, more meaning. There's a lot of things in the German language, and there's often not the best translation for, like let's say in English, because it loses some of its meaning or impact sometimes. But that's like, I can say that's similar, like with English and Afrikaans, you know. There's certain things that, at least here in South Africa, I mean, one of our languages is Afrikaans. And even Afrikaans language that has been affected by what we call slang. I don't know if that term is used everywhere, but yeah, and there's like there's a lot of people that speak a mixture of English and Afrikaans, and those two together, and it sort of emerged with a like title of so English plus Afrikaans. We've called it Mengels, or there's another funny one, but it's less commonly known, is Gemakrikaans. But it's basically sort of a slang which uses combinations of both English words and Afrikaans words and South African slang words. It's sort of like words that people made and it got trendy. It's like very local type, and that's quite a unique thing. But you know, within that, I think that the classical sense of Afrikaans or English can sometimes be lost, and I think if yeah, but anyway, we find ways to communicate nonetheless, which is, I think, essentially what I'm trying to say. And yeah, anyway, okay. Avoid oaks, seek beaches. The saying originates in the fact that on some gnarly old oaks you can see a channel a few inches wide extending down the trunk, where a lightning strike has split the bark open and penetrated deep into the wood. Ouch. I've never seen such a scar like this on a trunk of a beech. But the conclusion that lightning never strikes beech trees is as false as it is dangerous. Large old beeches offer no protection from the lightning because they are struck just as often. The main reason there is next to no damage on beech trees is because their bark is so smooth. That's interesting. I wonder why. Okay. During a thunderstorm, it rains, and the water that sheets down the wrinkle-free surface of beech bark creates a continuous film. When lightning strikes, the electricity travels down the outside of this film because water conducts electricity much better than wood. Oaks, however, have rough bark. The rainwater that runs down their trunks from little cascades and drips to the ground in hundreds of mini waterfalls. I think I didn't read that sentence well enough, but it's okay. Therefore, the flow of electricity from the lightning strike is constantly interrupted, which, when this happens, the point of least resistance becomes the damp wood of the outer growth rings, which the tree uses to transport water. In response to the energy surge from the lightning strike, the sapwood explodes as though it has been shot, and years later, the scar bears witness to the oak's misfortune. Douglas firs, which are native to North America but now grow in Central Europe as well, react in much the same way as oaks, but in their case, their roots seem to be seem to be super sensitive. In the forest I manage, I've observed 2 lightning strikes where not only the tree was struck dead, but another 10 Douglas firs within a radius of 50 feet of the strike experienced the same fate. Oh my gosh. It makes me slightly uncomfortable, to be honest. That's sure, but anyway, it's okay. I'll just carry on reading. Clearly, the surrounding trees were connected to the victim underground. Right. And that day, instead of life-giving sugar, what they received was a deadly serving of electricity. So it seems like this little Mickey only emerges when I do these videos. I don't know where it hides or something. It's like almost invisible, and it's like, anyway. Okay. Yeah. It's pretty hectic that I mean, in a way it makes sense, but I think inside one would hope that the tree can withstand being electrocuted, and especially, I think one would hope that the tree wouldn't be electrocuted to such an extent that the surrounding trees, that some of the surrounding trees also get electrocuted from that huge event there. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've ever experienced a little bit of electric shock. No, it's not fun. No, imagine. Yeah, don't imagine that. Don't. Sorry, I'm nearly went to a dark place. Sorry. Okay. In thunderstorms with a lot of lightning, something else can happen. Fire. I experienced that once in the middle of the night when fire trucks rushed into our community forest to extinguish a small fire. Lightning had struck a hollow old spruce. The flames inside the tree were protected from the pouring rain, and they were licking their way up the rotten wood. The fire was put out quickly, but even without help, not much would have happened. The surrounding forest was sopping wet, and the fire would have very likely not have caught hold of the rest of the stand. Nature doesn't expect fires in native Central Europe forests. The once dominant deciduous trees don't catch fire because their wood doesn't contain any resins or essential oils. I learn something new almost every page, and amen every day. If that is just, essential for one's survival, definitely learn something new every day. Okay, as a result, none of the trees have developed any mechanism to react to heat. The cork oaks of Portugal and Spain are a testament to the fact that such a mechanism even exists. The cork oak's thick bark protects them from the heat of grass fires and allows the buds that lie under the bark to start growing again once the fire has passed. In Central Europe latitudes, though, the monocultures of plantation spruce and pines can fall prey to fire when the tree's discarded needles get bone dry in summer. But why do conifers store so many flammable substances in their bark and needles anyway? If fires are the order of the day in their native latitudes, wouldn't they be better off if they were highly flame resistant? It wouldn't be possible for a tree like the Swedish spruce in Dalarna, which is more... Sorry, I don't know if you heard that reminder sound on my computer. I apologize if you did. If not, it wouldn't be possible for a tree like the Swedish spruce in Dalarna, which is more than 8,000 years old, to reach such a ripe old age if it was engulfed by fire every 200 years. I think it is careless people, the kind of people who leave their campfires unattended, for example, who have been responsible for fiery disturbances in the forest for thousands of years. The small number of lightning strikes that actually start small localized fires are so rare that European tree species never adapted to them. Pay attention to the calls the next time you hear a news report about a forest fire. Most are attributed to human activity. In other words, just be careful. In North America, as in Europe, there have been people around since the last ice age, tinkering with fire. And so it's probable that most forest fires on that continent have also been caused by human activity. A clearing burnt for planting subsistence crops, a carelessly discarded stub of smoldering tobacco there, but nature has a role to play too. Left to their own devices, North American forests experience natural fire cycles. Where the climate is naturally moist and cool, lightning strikes soon fizzle out and on the damp forest floor, and forest fires may occur only every few hundred years. In areas where needles and twigs on the ground are often bone dry, lightning can spark fires as often as every couple of years. Fires left to burn through the forest on this natural cycle usually stay at ground level, getting hot enough to burn away brush in the understory and leaving established trees, blackened but unscathed. But just as people spark fires, they also rush to put them out. On the floors of forests not swept by a regular cycle of low-intensity fires, piles of kindling built up just waiting for a spark. In these conditions, instead of staying low and clearing the understories, fires soon escalate and climb up into the canopy. As the crowns ignite, wind-blown embers land on the neighboring trees, and so the fires spread. Low-level ground fires become raging infernos, leaving acres of blackened slopes in their wake. Yo. Many trees in North America are adapted to natural cycles of ground fires. Ponderosa pines and giant redwoods have evolved thick bark to protect their sensitive cambium. Jack pines have cones that pop open in heat, so their seeds fall onto the forest floor, cleared of vegetation, landing on a soft bed of ash that is a perfect place for life to start new. That makes me think, I can't remember the verse in the Bible right now. And so just understand that I'm like, but I'm gonna go look it up. But it's so I'm taking this out of context, and it's not the quoted scripture, but it's something about like how God gives beauty for ashes. And we'd love to. Maybe I should pause. No, it's okay. I'm just gonna move on. But that's what this is making me think of. And right now, I kind of want to go get my Bible and sort of go look that up and see what it means. But I appreciate that because, you know, like, why would I think of that like randomly now? So, you know, it could be like an inkling in my spirit. Go, like, Darlie, go look there. Maybe there's something there for you. Because I wasn't thinking about that before, and now it just came up, and I'm aware of it. I'm thinking maybe I should pause. Okay, it's okay. I lost my place. Okay. However, the character of forest fires in North America has been changed by naturally increasing drought conditions and the human practice of fire suppression. And forests that would once have survived or even thrived in the face of fire are now threatened by its destructive force. Less dangerous but more painful to trees is the phenomenon that I didn't even know about until recently. The Foresters Lodge, where we live, lies on a mountain ridge at an elevation of barely 1,600 feet. The streams all around, which are deeply carved into the landscape, don't do the forest any harm. Quite the opposite. However, large rivers are something completely different. They regularly overflow their banks, and therefore very specific ecosystems grow on either side of them. Forest riparian meadows. Forested riparian meadows. Which species of trees get established in these meadows depends on the kind of high water and how often it happens. I think I'm missing something. If the floods are fast flowing and last for many months of a year, then willows and poplars fit the bill. Oh, okay. They can cope with very long periods in wet conditions. You usually find these conditions close to the river, and this is where willow and poplar meadows get established. Farther away, and often a few yards higher up, floods occur less often. And when they do, in spring, after the snow melts, then you find large pools of slow-moving water. By the time the trees leaf out, most of the water has already drained away, and in such conditions, oaks and elms feel right at home. In contrast to the areas where willows and poplars grow, these hardwood meadows are very sensitive to summer flooding. In summer floods, otherwise robust trees can die because their roots suffocate. Some winters, however, the river really causes the trees pain. On a trip I made through a hardwood meadow in the middle of the Elbe River, I noticed loose strips of bark on all the trees. The damage was all at the same height up the trunks, about 6 feet above ground level. I'd never seen anything like it, and I couldn't figure out what might have caused the damage. The other people on the trip were at as much of a loss as I was, until the staff at the Biosphere Preserve solved the puzzle. The damage was caused by ice. When the Elbe froze over in particularly cold winters, thick ice floes, that's Floes, formed. When the air and water warmed up in spring, the ice floated between the oaks and elms on the floodwater, bumping up against the tree trunks. As the water was at the same level everywhere on the meadow, the wounds were to be found at the same height on all the trees. I mean, wow, what a puzzle to solve, eh? Sure, that's very interesting. I mean, you really need to know your stuff, to be able to figure that out. I mean, that's incredible. Wow, these people are amazing. In the context of climate change, one day the movement of ice on the Elbe will be a thing of the past, but the scars of the older trees, at least the ones that have experienced all kinds of capricious weather since the early 20th century, will bear testimony to these events for a long time to come. I mean, I think that is a very important thing. Being able to when you last through certain things in life, or a lot of things in life that maybe should have really broken you, should have taken you out, should have killed you, but somehow you survived and you're able to sustain that survival and continue to live on, then you are somewhat of a a living testimony, or a living witness. And with that, I think that many people who have and who can and bear witness, or have actual lived testimonies while they're still living, to be able to tell or to pass on. I think that they're they need maybe more. They need to both find it within themselves to share more, to pass down or to pass on testimonies that they have, that in order to maybe equip the future, whatever, in some kind of way. Because there's something important about that. And I think everything that might be the reason why that might be the actual reason why they're still around or still alive, where so many things in life have hit them, and they've been through so many things, and it's and I mean, for me, I thank God for that. And I know that I if I use myself as an example, I would not be breathing at all. I would be long gone dead a couple of times over if it weren't for God intervening, if it weren't for God literally never leaving me nor forsaking me. And I didn't even recognize how true that was. That's such a foundational thing for me. You can't convince me of anything else, especially that. That is so strong for me. He has never left me nor forsaken me. Never, not once. And I can say at the same time, he's the only one who's done that, who was able to do that, who's actually done that. And that, to me, it's it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing for me. And I mean, you get a loss of words, but I mean, that for me is one of the things that make up my own foundation. It's, I don't doubt that at all. I really don't doubt that. Yeah, I think, yeah. And I didn't always know that. I wasn't always aware. I came to an awareness of that, and when I realized that, I was very much taken aback, because I was like, whoa. And it was kind of like shuddering, because I realized, how far back it went. And I had looked over my whole life, and I looked over I sort of reflected on different situations and different things that, especially different scenarios in which there was literally no one there for me, or whoever was there forsaked me, or had forsaken me, had left, and I would be left alone. And yet, basically in situations where it's I wonder how she does it. No, it was because because God was there, even though I didn't exactly know that. I didn't, he was there the whole time. We don't always realize, and yet we can come to those realizations, though. How much God is there for us. And I think sometimes we have these expectations and our own idea of God and how he must show up and things like that. And sometimes that may make us closed off, and or that may make us a little bit a little bit reluctant to sort of want to be open. I don't know about that, but yeah, he's there, and you know, for me personally, that's a pretty solid thing. That's I value that. I value that a lot, and I appreciate that. And yeah, well, okay. I'm gonna go look up the book in the Bible which contains the beauty for ashes, because I feel that the draw to that now. And I think I should end this video. Sorry about that. So the next chapter will be chapter 32. And yeah, I'll see you there. Bye. God bless.